Hello, going live, and we're live right now, I think. Hello, everybody, and happy eve of the Christmas. A bunch of boots to show you. In fact, pretty much every boot I have, I think I have most of them here. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to go through some of these. I'm not a boot expert, but what I am an expert at is telling you what I like and what I've observed on the sizing of all these. So I thought it might be valuable to give some information about how I've enjoyed all these. Some of them I've had for about 15 years. So it might be kind of fun. If anybody's hanging out there right now, feel free to say hi. And before I turned on the camera, I was trying to do some Christmas cheer. I was doing a sleigh ride. So maybe I can play like the beginning of Sleigh Ride. Now I know there's like a bunch of guitar players that kind of hang out. So if there's any guitar players or like any musicians that want, it might be kind of fun to do. Like I can make a backing track and then have everybody send themselves playing over this if people are into playing Sleigh Ride. But I was gonna play it in the key of C. Hey Chris, what's up? Let's see. I made this in like 5 seconds. It sounds stupid. And you probably won't be able to hear this through the speakers. Let's see how this works. I made a really stupid backing track. So maybe you want to play this. And anybody that wants me to do a backing track, I might spend some time on this because this is like my vacation now after this video, and I'll spend some time making some music. So anybody that wants it, you can email me, phil@ashlandleather.com, and yeah, we can slap it. And we can play some disco. Anyways, let's get into some boots. Which is probably why you're here. Last week I did an interview with the Vintage Future, and anybody that hasn't checked out the Vintage Future YouTube channel, I really suggest it. I think he's got some great interviews with shoemakers and other people in sort of the clothing footwear industry. So he did an interview with Wyatt from Grant Stone that I enjoyed a lot. He did an interview with Brett Viberg, which I enjoyed a lot. I don't think I've ever heard Brett talk at length before, so it was interesting to hear his opinion. And he's got a bunch of other content out there that I think you might like. So we did an interview together last Friday that went for about 4 hours. I had a lot of fun with him, and I was sort of realizing that I have a lot of boots and stuff to show, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to go over them with you for the holidays. So let's start with probably one of my favorite boots. And Merry Christmas, Ed. What's up, Marco? This is the Indy boot in brown Chromexcel from Alden, and it looks like I got a little bit of dust and lint on it or something. It's kind of gross, but this is one of my favorite boots sort of ever. And I think part of the story behind the Indy boot has a lot to do with why I like it. But I just watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones, with my wife who had never seen it before, which is insane. And I noticed you see these boots all over the place. So apparently the story is that Harrison Ford showed up on set, and he was sort of a lesser known guy back there. He didn't have much say in anything, but they gave him a costume for what they thought Indiana Jones would be. And Harrison Ford decided to wear his boots, and he had a pair of these from Alden. And I guess Harrison Ford was like a carpenter or something before that. So he just wore them, and that's how they became the Indy boots, because they showed up in the movie. So I actually have another pair of Indy boots here too. And I always get the numbers wrong. There's like a 403, 404, 405. I've actually owned them all. I don't have the kudu ones here, the super dark ones, but I do have these, which I believe they're called pecan. And I think these were one of my first boots ever. And I wore these a lot at the tannery, and you can see they're like sad looking now. I beat the crap out of them. And these were worn in literal work environments, like not sort of fashiony hanging out in an office stuff. I was running around the tannery with these and really enjoyed them. I thought they were really comfortable. But I've got some criticisms on this, which is not Alden's fault. It's more of well, I suppose it could be a little Alden's fault. So let me give you a little backstory on this. And Marco says, honestly, like the boots, but the price, it's something I don't like. Yeah, they're expensive. But, I'm not selling any boots or anything. But if you look at cost per boot, yeah, it's expensive. But if you look at cost per wearing, it's free compared to some other things. You can buy a pair of inexpensive $100 boots that might last a year, and that's inexpensive for a boot. But if this boot, I wore this for 12 years and it's still wearable. I put a new sole on it that costs $150 or something like that. But these are things that you can wear over and over and just put new soles on. So cost of wearing is probably lower in the long run. I think that's sort of an important topic. But what's up, Melinda? How you doing? I'm glad you're liking your Tony. That's awesome. Thanks for coming to hang out. And if you missed it, I did a little Christmas Carol sort of poorly at the beginning of the video here. But this boot was, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a long time, maybe 14, 15 years ago. When I first started at Horween, I met the owner for Alden. He came by the tannery and I got to meet him and I was talking to him about shoes and I was asking about sizing. And he said, he actually suggested this size. So let's see if I don't have to remember. This is a 10.5 triple wide. And he suggested this for me. I think it's very, very comfortable. It fits very well for me. I think what happens when we increase the width, or when a shoe company increases the width on a shoe, it also increases the length and the proportions get a little funky. So even if I guess I'll toss a shoe tree in here. But even if I fill this vamp up, it still doesn't, it just has like an odd shape to me that I don't like. I like the regular D width Indy boot that I also have here. By the way, these are Grant Stone shoe trees. For many years, people were making fun of me for not having shoe trees, and now I finally have them. Can't get them in. All right. So even with the shoe tree in there, I just feel like it looks stupid. It just looks kind of clowny. And I don't know how well I'll be able to show that off, but there's something that's happening here that just looks off to me. And that's because this is the triple wide and they had to compensate for that length and the width. Whereas this Indy boot, what size is this? This is a 10D, which is so much smaller, right? But the proportions of this, there's something magical about just the D width. It looks more correct. So maybe we can do a side by side here. Maybe it's hard to see in camera, but like there's something clowny about these to me, where this one just looks sleek and awesome. So I guess for me, and like obviously that 10.5 triple wide fits really well. And this is such a huge size difference. This is almost like a full size difference. I recall this being a little snug at first, and this sort of leads into the second point. The Chromexcel leather here, I remember it being a little snug, but now that I've worn it in, this is probably my most comfortable boot. And I think a lot of the credit there goes to Alden, but of course, I think the leather choice is also important. One of the things that the way that they tan the Chromexcel leather is they will fill it full. They actually like pound waxes and oils into the skin itself, and then they hang it up on hooks and let it dry for like a week or two, depending on it's the time depends on the moisture level. So in the summer, it takes a little longer to dry. But in that drying process, because they're hanging it up and they're not stretching it out, the leather actually kind of comes in on itself. So the theory is, and it works out pretty well, is that you're going to get, because it's air dried like that, you're going to get a little bit of a better break. Now this piece here is not like the most perfect break, but there's Chromexcel tends to be a little bit of a nicer break in this section. You tend to see a little bit less pebbling and delamination of the grain layer from the fiber layers underneath on the Chromexcel. But the other thing that the air drying does is it gives it a little bit of stretch, which is good and bad. So as a shoemaker or a wallet maker like myself, stretchy leather is really, really difficult to work with. But for the comfort level, I find it to be perfect because that leather has a little bit of give. And if your foot is pressing up against the side, like you can kind of see, I'm kind of coming out about over the stitching of the welt there. My foot is sort of like pushing out towards the camera right now when I wear it. And it's sort of just molded around my foot. So I think the Chromexcel is great for comfort for that reason. Whereas this leather is called Austin, also from Horween. I don't like this as much for basically every reason. It is much more grainy in character. You can see a little bit more of the hair holes in the grain. I think it's just a more boring color. I think it's a little bit more of a boring leather. Obviously, this is beat to crap, but you get a sense like here of what it would look like sort of everywhere. It's just a little bit more boring to me than the Chromexcel. It doesn't seem to wear in as nicely. I just like the Chromexcel more. What's up, ISO? What's up, Ryan? Ryan says, got my marbled ultraviolet fat Herbie last week. It's gorgeous. Awesome. I can't wait to see how that wears in. And those marbled UVs are insane, man. Actually, I think you don't see those marbled shells in shoes because it would look ridiculous. I'm starting to feel like the marbled shells are like absolutely perfect for wallets and small leather goods. It's like the dream. You can sort of your wallet would be really unique with a piece like that. And you know, we don't get huge pieces of shells, so even if you could make it into a shoe, it might be hard to get. But yeah, I don't think you see a lot of marbled shells outside of us. And I've noticed that there's other tanneries that are making marbled shells, which is cool. People ask me if I get upset that other people are making things that are similar. I think it's awesome. I think it's really cool to see all the different leathers and different colors. It's my favorite part. Floyd says, is the Austin a veg tan? It's not. I don't know how much trouble I'll get into saying this, but I believe that Alden was calling this calfskin. And there was a point in time where this was made from actual calfskin. This particular pair, which is about 14, 15 years old, is not calfskin. And I think in my time working at the tannery, I can only recall one or two times that we actually made it from real calfskin. And I think those are for like special projects. So I think they call this pecan calf, but it's not. This is steer hide. It's chrome tanned. In theory, it is waterproof for 10,000 flexes, which is how they rate waterproofing. This is no longer waterproof. I probably put 1 million flexes on this. But yeah, I love these. And something that's probably unique about this is that I put a day-night sole on the bottom, so you don't see a lot of Indy boots with day-night soles. But let's look at the other. They also have the neoprene cork sole, which is this one. I really like the neoprene cork. They also do like a crepe sole, which I don't see my Roy boots. I don't know where my Roy boots are, but the Roy boots have a crepe sole, which I think are crazy comfortable too. They'll have a little bit of pluses and minuses. Ed says, let's give Phil some Christmas cheer and smash the like button. Yeah, Ed. Ed's my advertising agent, apparently. Thank you, Ed. But yeah, there's different leather choices. I like Chromexcel a lot. You might want to see a counterpoint to my love of Chromexcel. It seems like there's this prevailing sense that people love Chromexcel. I like it. You might like it too, but you should get some information to hear what the arguments are against it. There is a video that I came across that I enjoyed also on YouTube called Is Chromexcel Overrated? Let me actually try to link that for you. YouTube, is Chromexcel overrated? So I link it here. It's from Almost Vintage Style. And I enjoyed his counterpoint. I think he makes some good points. I think the big thing at the end of the day is it's super subjective. So if you're interested in watching that video, I put it in the live chat. I linked him in there. And I've been commenting in his comments because I thought it'd be interesting. Like a year ago when I came across that, I thought it'd be interesting to have a conversation and learn something from each other. Because if you watch that video, he makes really good points. But I think one of the things that he was saying is that this looks really boring. I think it looks kind of awesome, and that there's no right or wrong there, right? It's like who's correct. It's you, whatever you think is good. So I really like the Chromexcel for that look. I think it's vastly superior than the Austin. I think it's also superior than the Kudu Chromexcel, which I think is like called the 404 or something. They make another one with a lug sole. That's the one with the Kudu leather. It's like super, super intense. I think it's kind of boring looking compared to this. It's like a lot more flat, and it's like super, super rugged. Like that to me is like a true work boot. Hey, Ben, right? Nataku. What's up? What's up, Nataku? I don't want to spoil your cover, but it looks like you did anyways. Thanks for hanging out, Ben. Yeah, so Indy boots are super cool. I love them. I think what distinguishes them from most everything is this mock toe on the front. Grant Stone looks like they just released a sort of mock toe boot similar to this with a different type of sole, which is interesting to check out. I forget what they're calling it, but that just came out. So you might want to check out that. Here's let's go on to another brand here. And I don't think I've ever seen anybody talk about this. But this story has this shoe has some miles on it. This is a boot from Timberland, and they have a line called Abington, which is what these are. And I've worn these through hell and back, kind of obviously. So like all that black stuff on the side is like actual dirt. Yeah, Nitaku, this is an Alden Indy boot, which I really suggest. We were having a chat in the live chat here. People are saying it's expensive, and it's expensive. I would say the result of this whole conversation that I'm about to have, the biggest, most important thing to know is you got to get the right size. And that's a challenge. You know, we can't really go to many stores these days. But if you can find the right size for you, any of the things I'm about to show you, if the size is not right, they're going to be the worst. If you nail the size, it'll be your favorite boot ever. So that's the most important thing, because you're going to drop several $100s on something like this, and it's not worth it unless it fits. I've tried to make things work for me before, and I just end up not wearing them, which I'll show you. But yeah, Ben, in fact, this other Indy boot I wore every day at the tannery for, oh, there we go. I wore this guy every day at the tannery for years. I mean, it's not the nicest looking one now because I've worked in it for a decade, but I popped a new sole on it, and I'm going to get another decade out of it if I want, or more actually, because I think the guy said I could do like 5 resoles on it, so we get 50 years. So yeah, it's expensive. It'll last you a long time, and you'll enjoy it. Like a lot of these boots that I have, when I put them on, I get really excited to wear them. So that, to me, it's harder to find something that you actually like get excited about using and you want to wear. I don't know. Like I'd rather spend 5 times as much and like enjoy the thing and have like one of them instead of have 5 crappy things over the next 5 years. So I'm going to get to this Abington boot, but this one is super comfortable. It's made by Timberland. I think this is made in China. It doesn't even say, but I remember I bought these for like $100. I forget where I bought them from. It was years and years ago, but I remember thinking that this is a version of Chromexcel leather. And I was like, man, $100 for a Chromexcel boot, like that's insane. So there's some things I don't like about it, but the price was right, so I picked them up. And I love Chromexcel, and obviously I got like a ton of wear out of this. I wore almost straight through the sole there, and like definitely more through the heel. So I wore a lot of this. I would wear this in the winter, even though there's no treads on it. We had a huge blizzard of like many feet of snow a bunch of years ago. This must have been 10, I don't know what year it was, probably about 10 years ago. And I walked to Horween from my home in that huge blizzard, and it was kind of fine. So I really enjoyed wearing these in the winter. They kind of beat them up shoes, and they're super nasty now. Like I think I went too hard on these because I have the other one back there, and I washed off this dirt, and it just still looks abraded. Like the grain is sort of rubbed away, and it's just not super nice. So I don't know. You could take care of something like this and wear it longer. But I enjoyed them a lot, especially for like $100. I didn't really love this sort of faux leather thing here, so I could have done without that. But other than that, I really liked these Abington boots. Yeah, you might want to check out. I was just saying that Grant Stone has. I think it kind of looks like this, but with a mock toe. Let me actually search there. It's Grant Stone. They have a brand new model out that is kind of similar looking to those. New releases. Okay, it's called the Brass Boot. That's right. And here, I'll link the one that is in saddle tan. I believe this is a Badalassi veg. I'll just link this in the chat too. Ben, you should check out the Brass Boot. Yeah, so the Brass Boot kind of looks like this. Let's compare it. So I'm looking at the Brass Boot on my screen. The sole is a little bit different. This is a Vibram sole with a different texture on it. This one is not a real welt. This is like a fake welt. I think this is cemented on. It's glued onto it. And then the Brass Boot has a mock toe, this is a plain toe boot that I'm holding. They also have eyelets and speed laces on the Brass Boot, where this one doesn't have any of that. I actually kind of enjoyed these. They're like loose on there, like loose little hangers, but I kind of like how these look. These kind of remind me of Danner boots, if you're familiar with the Danner hiking boots. But looking at that Grant Stone for $340, that seemed like a pretty awesome deal in a similar aesthetic. So I should probably pick up some of those. Hey, John, Merry Christmas. And actually, speaking of those Brass Boots, I haven't watched it yet, but I saw our friends over at the Vintage Future did an unboxing of the Brass Boots. So actually, let me link him too. Linking everybody today. But that's what it's all about. Brass Boot Vintage Future. There we go. Grant Stone Brass Boot unboxing. Let's share this with you here. All right. Nataku says the shoe isn't too much my style. Sorry, Phil. I love the Alden style more. I used to get emails about Alden factory seconds, but I've been out of the loop. So the place that does the Alden factory seconds was actually a customer of Ashland's too. The Shoe Mart, which they have like a special, I forget how you get on the list, but they have like a special section on their site that you have to like sign up for, and then they send you all the seconds. I highly recommend it. You might have to be patient, and the biggest thing is getting your sizing right. So you might want to call them to like have them help you get the perfect size, and you might have some trial and error. Like I mentioned with these two, these are like such different sizes, and I actually find them both to be comfortable, but one of them is better than the other. I think getting it a little bit tighter to start and then having it break in is kind of the play. I think that's the way to go. What's up, David? Thanks for hanging out. All right, so we have the Indy boot. We have that Abington. I don't even know what they call this. Here's a funky one, and this one is from Quoddy. So this is a black Chromexcel, like sort of chukka thing from Quoddy. I forget what they call this. But what's unique about this guy, or a little bit different, is the sole is like this like flexible leather. So it's actually very similar of a leather to the Chromexcel on the sole here, but it's thicker and much more filled in with oils and waxes and stuff. So it's super, super dense. It's not very hard. So this kind of feels like wearing a slipper around. But so it's kind of different and it's a little funky, but I like that it's just like all blacked out and kind of ninja style. I haven't worn these as much as some of the other stuff, but I like these Quoddies. Nataku says, Yeah, you're talking about the Shoe Mart special stuff. Tried sizing from the store before, but it's been years. Got some Thorogood. Thorogood is super comfortable. I don't have any Thorogoods here, but check out Thorogood for sure. They're really, really comfortable and like not super expensive. And yeah, these quaddies are cool. I don't have any other quaddies here. I used to own some other boat shoes. Actually, let's get into the boat shoes because I have here. This is cool. So this is a boat shoe, and I forget I forget what they were calling this. But this is actually from Oak Street Bootmaker. And I liked a lot like years and years ago. So this again must be like 10, 12 years ago. Quoddy was making a navy Chromexcel boat shoe with this sort of like actually I don't think they were doing the crepe sole, but they were doing I used to own a navy Chromexcel with like a brick sole. It was like red and I thought it was really cool looking. And then I saw that Oak Street was making this in a crepe sole. So this is actually the first crepe sole that I ever had. So it's navy Chromexcel with a crepe sole from Oak Street. I like these a lot. I didn't wear them as much in my other Oak Streets because they're like a little pinchy on me. Um, they're not as comfortable as my other Oak Streets, which is really interesting. I'm not sure why, but they kind of pinch me a little bit. Let me show you the other ones because I think of everything I own, I think these are the things I've worn the most. And I think they were calling this like I forget what they're calling it. I've had this like since Oak Street started, and I wore the snot out of them. I've done so much in these. I've like stopped worrying. You can even see in the back. Like I kind of step on the heel and like sort of slide them on. So I've kind of blown out this stitching. And what's really crazy, I was just noticing it when I was brushing these, but there's this hand stitching on the side here that's also like totally exploded. Um, so it's actually kind of interesting. Like I can see my finger through it. This is an interesting one, and it's kind of fortuitous that it's happened here because a lot of people have this perception of hand stitching being stronger than machine stitching. And what's really interesting here is they both seem to have broken at the same time. Um, having said that, like I've been like super neglecting these and just like stepping on the heel. But you know, that's a hand stitch too. So this we make the wallets with a machine stitch by default because I want to save you money and I think the quality is the same. I think the reason to do a hand stitch is if you can't make construction without it, like on a mock toe boat shoe, you have to hand stitch this, or if you really like the aesthetic. But like, man, I beat the crap out of these. I think these were a little narrow on me at first. You can see again, my foot edge here is going over the sole quite a bit, and I just like blasted it out, and it's just super comfortable. So it's brown Chromexcel again on this. That was a little tight on me. I think that's the guidance I'm going to lean towards is get it like a tiny bit tight on you. So when you first put them on, first couple wearings, you're like, that's a little snug, but not like killing you. And I've noticed that when I do that, I tend to think that of the shoes as like more of my favorites. So this is like absolutely one of my favorites ever. I love this thing. It's so old. I think this is from the first year Oak Street was making shoes. And I've really blasted through like everything on the sole here. Like all the texture is gone, and the heel I've like worn through the stitching. So I love these. I have other boat shoes here that I don't love as much, and it's purely about the sizing. So this is a boat shoe from Rancourt, which looks a little sad because it's like flattened, but it's a nice looking boat shoe, right? But you can see it's almost identical to that Oak Street one with the same sort of like soles on the bottom, but like I've barely worn that. So here's the reason why is it's just a little it's like it's like a quarter size too small for me. I feel like the Rancourt stuff is a little bit narrow. This one says it's an 11. That's wild. So I wonder if Rancourt's fit is just like a little bit more narrow. I have like a really wide foot, which should play into that decision making. But I mean, it's the same look here. Where'd the other sheet go? Oh, here. So these are basically like the same. I'm looking at the details. Like everything looks pretty similar. So obviously I've worn this 1,000% more than these. And the only reason is because these were just way more comfortable, the Oak Streets. So I think at the end of the day, these are identical. I wear one way more than the other because it fits right. So again, like the sizing is really important, and it's hard to know like what your size is going to be. It's kind of a bummer, and you don't know like how the stuff's going to break in. So again, Chromexcel, get it a little tighter. It tends to break in a little bit better. Now here's another boat shoe. These are from Sebago. These are Docksiders. And I've barely worn these because they're kind of not my style, but I bought these because they were like $60 and I knew that it was Chromexcel and I knew how much Chromexcel shoes cost. I was like, they're giving this thing away. So I bought these on 6pm.com a bunch of years ago. And I believe this color is called Port Green. And this is a variation of the Chromexcel called Cavalier Chromexcel, which is a little bit less grease in it. So they can get brighter colors like this sort of green shade. I'm not like cut out for this style, but the other thing is they're just not super comfortable. I don't know what it is. They're just kind of scratchy on me or something. Like I don't know. It's soft and like very flexible, but they're just not super comfortable, and I don't know why. So that's my Sebago story. There's not much to tell. I bought them because they were cheap. And I was really into Chromexcel boat shoes for a moment. That's why I have all these other ones here. Let's see what you guys are saying. NetDev says, NetDev1 says Grandstone half size down for me. My only gripe is they seem to be pretty heavy compared to other service boots I have. Well, let's get into that because I have these diesel boots that I've been really enjoying. It does feel a little bit heavy. That's for sure. I'm not sure what makes it much different than others. Let me try to non-quantifiably compare it with the Indy boots. I don't have a scale here. I feel like it's a tiny bit heavier than the Indy boot, but not by a lot. So I don't really know what that's about. I have new feelings on. So I love these, and I have new feelings on them that I didn't have before. So when I got these diesel boots in Dune Chromexcel, which Wyatt helped me pick out the sizing for. They're very, very comfortable. So what are these? These are 9.5 triple wide. So that should give you a sense of my sizing here. It's like these Indy boots are 10.5 triple wide, and this is 9.5 triple wide. And somebody was saying to size a half size down. So maybe this is more like a 10.5 or 10 triple wide. Anyways, when I got these, I was really enjoying like how well my foot fit in the front of the toe box. And I like that a lot. And they're just super comfortable out of the box, which is a great experience. So I've had these, man, it's been a quick year. I've had these for like 9 months now. I wear them just about every other day. So I wear them like two to 4 times a week, let's say. And I really, really like them. And I feel like I still like them a lot. But there's one thing that I'm noticing is I feel like I can't get them tight enough now. I feel like I've broken them in, and now they feel like 1/8 of a size too big, where they were like perfect before. So it's hard for me to like knock that, but I feel like I can't tighten this enough, and I feel like I have a good amount of room in the toe box, which is like not bad. I feel like it's like a little too much in the front now. So I don't really know why that's happening. Maybe it's the Chromexcel sort of like letting out a little bit, but I love everything else. I actually don't mind. I think the sizing and the fit are nice. It seems like it's gotten a little less good, which maybe is understandable, but I love everything else about it too. So the leather that they chose, look how great. This is the one compliment that I think most people wouldn't understand about Grantstone that I seem to have a little bit of an insight to. The cutting knowledge that whoever cut these, and I have another pair of long wings from Grant Stone. Whoever cut these is very knowledgeable, because the way I can tell is this break where the toe flexes right here, where the leather wants to sort of crease. We're getting a really fine and tight break on these. And the way you get that is you know where to cut that pattern piece from. So a smart cutter would cut something a little bit less tight into this pattern piece here, or perhaps on here, but maybe not. So there's places that you can cut looser pieces. The knowledge that they have in China was like really surprising to me, because I haven't seen that on other Chinese shoes or even some American made stuff. It's just like a really tight break. I love the color of the Dune Chromexcel. When this was fresh out of the box, I couldn't believe how nicely they polished the leather. And that comes from somebody that polishes leather for a living. I thought they did a really good job. So I really like this. I should talk to Wyatt, because I'd be curious to see why he thinks maybe it's just letting out and like breaking in. But I feel like it's less like, it's hard for me to criticize because it's like barely a difference. I feel like it's very small of a difference, less comfortable than it was when I first had it. Hey, you made it, David. Hey, what's up, man? I missed a bunch of other questions too. I'm sorry, guys. Floyd. Oh, Floyd. I actually have those shoes right here. Floyd is saying, I love my Clarks with a crepe sole. So I have these desert boots made in Vietnam. Natural crepe sole. So yeah, I bought these also because I had the Roy boots from Alden and Context Clothing. And I really, really like the Roy boots a lot. Those I have in, I think they only make them in the brown Chromexcel. So I saw that, when I was working at Horween, I saw they were shipping leather to Clark's, and I looked up what they were making, and they made this in the Color 8 Chromexcel like you see here, but they also were making one in like a dark green. I thought this was super badass. I've always really liked plain toes, so I picked these up. And I think here's a really good example of what I'm talking about with the cutting. So why I think Grant Stone's cutting is very good, and why perhaps the factory making this in Vietnam just didn't know the what to look for in this particular leather. It's more expensive to train up somebody to know how to test for this stuff. So if you take a look here, where that toe is going to flex here, the leather is kind of junky on this break. Now there's two ways to look at it. It's like, you could say, why did Horween send leather that has that type of break? And then second thing would be like, why did Clark's in Vietnam cut that into this pattern piece? Well, the tragedy of this particular boot is the leather that they cut for this is like super, super tight and doesn't have any of that pebbly creasing. So to me, that tells me like some of the leather was good. They just chose to not cut it for the right spot, which would have been this part. Which is hard to blame the worker for, because like they probably weren't taught how to do it. So anyways, Chromexcel has sections in the hide that are tighter than others. It's not uniform at all. It's not like cutting plastic. It's not like cutting fabric. Each little section on the hide is totally different. So you have to know, there's even like directionality in how the leather is going to move. So you have to know a lot of information, one, about the leather, and two, about like how it's going to function on a shoe. And if they didn't know that, they would just cut whatever and try to maximize for yield, which makes sense. But cutting leather is such a different beast that you can't just cut to get as many shoes out of a piece of leather. You got to cut so you can make the best ones possible. Having said that, that's probably why these were like $90, which I thought was still I would buy these again for $90, even with that loose break. It like doesn't super bother me. But anyways, these are super comfortable. These are kind of like slippers. I would put these in the same world as like a boat shoe. Like these Navy Chromexcel Oak Streets. You kind of slip them on. You don't really worry about it. At least for me, like I don't baby any of my stuff. So I definitely just slip them on, and maybe I'll brush them every now and then. But Clark's, I mean, that's kind of a classic silhouette. And I don't have any other Chukkas, really. Kind of. I have like a pseudo Chukka that we'll show you next year. But yeah, Floyd, Clark's with crepe soles. I kind of like the squishy crepe sole. It's kind of a funky thing. I like it a lot. Here's a weird one. So this company doesn't exist anymore, but this is like a plain toe boot with sort of like, I don't know what kind of sole you call that. It's like custom everything. But this was a boot from a company called Boston Boot Company that's gone. I believe they don't exist anymore. And I remember meeting the guys, and they like really sold me on the idea. And I liked the I kind of don't like it as much in person, but I liked the photos and stuff that I saw. I did wear this for a while. I enjoyed it. It wasn't there were some problems with it, and I think that's why they went away. I feel like this Boston Boot Company had a chance to do something special, and I think they overthought it. So a lot of the times when I talk about Ashland just having like a clean look that like you don't put any crap on it, you can probably see one of the things on here that I would determine or that I would call like not necessary, but that they were trying to do because the world that they were familiar with needed to have something to make them stand out and be a little bit different. But this red eyelet here is not, I don't think that's super cool. I think it makes it unique. And these guys, I believe, came from more of like a fashiony sort of sneaker world, and they were trying to do more leather boots and stuff. They did this like way before Thursday Boot came out, so I think they were trying to put themselves into that world. And they had like a guy that was designing Nike insoles, design them a custom insole for this, which was like an awesome idea, and I was sold on that. But when I got it, it was so high in the boot. Yeah. When I got that insole, like my foot wouldn't even slide in because their insole was so tall. Like I just couldn't wear them. So I had to take the insole out. And actually there's still no insole in here. So it was in black Chromexcel. I thought it was kind of interesting. I wanted to support some new brands, try new stuff. But I think they're out of business now. I don't think people bought them. Who knows why? They're not bad. I would say they're just like trying too hard and should have just been like simple and nice. And they were made in China for whatever that matters. Boston Boot, that was my brother's favorite boot company. I'm not into that style, but it's all-time favorite style. His all-time favorite style. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, they're kind of like a short boot chukka thing. I don't know what you call that. Wolf and Shepherd comes to mind. They're so good, but a little overpriced. I'm not familiar with Wolf and Shepherd. What else can we show you here? I have 3 different 1,000-mile boots here. Let's go over those. So this was like when 1,000-mile first came out. This also like everything I own is from like the same period of time where I just got like really into boots. This must be 15 years old also. Maybe 13. But the 1,000-mile boot here, this is an old style that Wolverine had that they resurrected, I believe, after 100 years. So this was a boot that they didn't change. They just found the old pattern and started making it again. And this is sort of the opposite of Boston Boot. I really like everything that this represents. It's sort of historic. It's got a clean look. It's not trying really hard. It's just like, that's a nice looking boot, done pretty well. There's some things that I don't love about it. But I love like the aesthetic and the idea of this, I think is really cool. So this one is in brown Chromexcel. There's some antique copper hardware. So the eyelets and the speed hooks are antique copper. I think that's cool. And this is pretty old. And I like conditioned this a bunch with Tanner's blend, which I think it looks awesome. I haven't touched it in a long time, but this used to be like a contrasting stitch in the center there, which I think is really cool. So it's like subtle things that aren't obnoxious and just like a clean plain toe. My only critique about this boot is the outsole, which is like a double-edged sword. you get this and you put them on, and they're they're crazy comfortable out of the box. The sole, and that's because the sole, like, look at it there. Like, the sole is so thin. There's like nothing. So you kind of feel like there's nothing on there. So we're walking on like if you step on a pebble, you'll like really feel a pebble through that sole, which is good and bad. Like, it's comfortable, but like it's also not at sometimes. And I feel like it's just a little too thin. So I think they could have pulled back, like, and given it a little bit more body to that outside leather, maybe make it thicker and firmer. But the other thing is, like, it's just super flexible. I can push this with one finger and flex that whole sole. It's comfortable for that reason. There's got a lot of flex in this outsole. Nataku says, speaking of Thursday, what are your thoughts on them? Do they have Horween leather? Are they worth it? The only Horween leather that Thursday makes or uses is the natural Chromexcel. And I feel like number one, I can't really give an opinion on Thursday because I don't own them. So I don't like when people like criticize my wallets and they've never even seen it. And I wouldn't want to do that to somebody else. Having said that, there's some things that are like really remarkable that they do. Like, to make anything for $200 made out of leather, that's like crazy that they can do that. And if I remember correctly, the one thing that like totally blew my mind, let's see, Thursday boot jacket. They did a jacket, and I've made a couple jackets before. I'm gonna look this up. They made it. They have it up right now. There's a racer jacket in natural Chromexcel. It's like pretty similar to something I made before. $350. Like, I look at that and I look at the amount of leather in there. They're like, if I had to buy that much leather, just leather alone is $1,000. Like, that's a lot of clean leather. So I don't know how they can possibly make that jacket for $350. So I think that's what you get from Thursday is like, I don't know what's missing, but there's probably something going on. Because I actually don't know how that's possible. So $350, maybe they just don't make any money on it. No, they buy. Let's see what they say this leather is. I'm pretty sure I'm looking at natural Chromexcel right now. Oh no, but it says natural lambskin. I know at one point in time they had a Chromexcel jacket. Maybe they bailed on it because, like I said, it was like like, I don't understand. Let's see, natural lambs or black lambskin. Here's one in tobacco lambskin. Here's one in taupe. So it looks like they're going all lambskin. That must be the game. Black matte, rugged, and resilient leather. I don't know what that means. So yeah. So anyways, at one point in time, they were making a Chromexcel jacket for like $350. And it blew my mind because I'm familiar with Arrow and Shot making jackets, and they're $2,000. And that, to me, that seems more reasonable. And I know they manufacture a lot of stuff in Mexico, which, whatever, take that for what it's worth. I don't know what that means. It just means it was made not in America. So I don't know. Like, I think Grant Stone has thrown off a lot of people's thought process when they look at this. Like, I don't look at that and go like, oh, that was made in China. So I think Wyatt from Grant Stone has like a really good persuasive argument with this. And I think his thesis is that, like, you can make a good thing anywhere. You just need to know how to do it and teach people how to do it the right way and use the good stuff. So I think Thursday can make some good stuff in Mexico. I think anybody can make good stuff anywhere. What's up, Andrew? Yeah, Nataku, I know that Thursday boot uses Chromexcel, but everything that's not natural Chromexcel on their site is from somewhere else, and I don't know where it's from. So, but it's my understanding they're pretty well made, and I think they're trying to push the envelope and do like new stuff. So I was showing the brown Chromexcel 1,000-mile boot. This is a black Chromexcel 1,000-mile boot. And here's my little story with this one. I saw Natalie Horween wearing one of these with some jeans at work one day, and I was like, Natalie, you look super badass. I thought Natalie looked really cool. So I asked her what she thought, and she really liked them. I mean, I still think they look awesome. So I bought this pair for my wife, and like she's kind of barely used them. So my wife just felt like she couldn't pull it off. She maybe feels like she's not as cool as Natalie, but I kind of want these for me. Something like I really like this black and brown together, like that sort of natural edge with that black. I think is really neat. It's got again that contrasting stitch that you couldn't really see on my brown ones. It looks like the eyelets on here are more of like a black oxide sort of look, which is cool. Again, my concern with the 1,000 Mile boots is like the sole is kind of thin. This one feels quite a bit more firm than the one I'm wearing, but this is a leather sole. Maybe mine's just really broken in. And then the other one, the other 1,000 Mile boot, I kind of beat these up too. I think they call this Harvest, something like that. And it kind of looks dumpy when it's all like flat like that. I should put a shoe tree in here. But these were like a little bit like I couldn't really pull this off because it's kind of loud. It's just not. I'm like a little bit more of a subtle style. I felt like this color was just like a little much. But this leather from Horween is called Tundra, and it's a color called Harvest, and it's very grainy. It's a full grain leather, and it is when it is tanned correctly, it's waterproof. And I should go back and explain what that means. Like the waterproof means that when you're walking in this and you take 10,000 steps in each shoe, before those 10,000 steps happen, you will not have water penetrate through the leather into the inside of the boot. But after 10,000, they don't really guarantee it for that. So that's kind of a thing I don't think, like I didn't know that. When you buy a waterproof boot, it's not going to be waterproof forever unless you like apply some waterproofing something to it. So I like these. You can see they pick up dirt really easily, and I don't take care of my stuff. So 1,001, it's over. A lot of them that's like the minimum, and a lot of them will go more than that, but they only guarantee it for that much. I kind of feel like it to me was like a hey, stop it kind of moment where the color is just too light and I don't think I can pull it off, and it picks up a lot of dirt. I kind of don't love that. I like the black and brown 1,000 Miles a lot better. Okay. And here's the daddy. This is sort of like a lot of people's dream here, and I like these a lot. It's interesting. This is a Viberg boot. It's a plain toe boot in natural shell cordovan. It has a day-night sole on it. This is made in natural shell cordovan. So this was before I learned my lesson about that harvest color. I thought it'd be good to have a natural shell boot as my first pair of shell cordovan anything. And that's why I picked this up. And I noticed kind of quickly that the natural color, it's a little bit darker now, but I noticed when I was first wearing it, I felt weird wearing it. Like I felt like I really stood out. I felt like the color was like so light and like a taupe color or something. Like I just felt like I looked weird, which is probably not true. But I put a little bit of water on these and brushed them. I made a YouTube video of that too. And now they look a little bit more golden. There's like a little bit more red in it. So just a little bit of water has sort of like warmed them up a bit. And I like the color a lot more. But I think the big lesson about Viberg, and they include it in the box, and I didn't really believe it, but in that box, they have a card that says, these are going to be uncomfortable when you first wear them, but you got to let them break in. And I was like, oh, that kind of seems strange. But this shoe is sort of the opposite of the sense I get from the Grant Stone, where the Grant Stone started off like super, super comfortable out of the box, which is amazing. And they're still comfortable now. There's, I think, a slightly less now. The Viberg were like unwearably uncomfortable out of the box. They were so uncomfortable that I didn't want to even get through that break-in period. I'm glad I stuck through with it though, because now they're as comfortable as the Grant Stones. I would give this a tiny bit of an edge of comfort compared to the Grant Stones. I get, especially when they were new, I was getting pinching like right here in the center. And the other thing I don't like about these is the like where this pattern for the tongue, where they stitched this on the inside here, it's got like a pretty thick, like I wish they kind of, I don't know. I wish this seam under here was smoother or something because it hits me on my like the upper part of my foot. So I don't like that a lot. It's gotten better, but I still feel it, like especially when I put them on at first, it kind of hits me there, like right where these two pieces of leather are sewn together. But they've really broken in really well, and I'm noticing now the forefoot of the toe box here, like I have more room to get around in, and I find them to be really comfortable. And they're still like really firm, but even the midsole is sort of starting to loosen up and break in a bit. So I'm really enjoying how these are changing. I still think it's a little light in color. I've always really been big on patina, so I wanted to see if I beat these up, what they would do. They haven't changed too much. They're pretty like scuffed up and stuff. I haven't polished these in months. So I don't know if this will even show on here, but I kind of scuffed them quite a bit. Yeah, you probably can't see much of that. I think they're scuffed up, but every time I go to polish them, they look really great. So I think the shell cordovan is awesome for that. You can kind of just beat it up and wear it, or like fill all those scuffs and scratches back in. Again, I haven't done anything to these for months, and I wear these. I try to rotate these right now with the Grant Stones, and I've been enjoying both of them. Let's show you one more shell item. We only have 2 more shoes left here. This is the other shell something or other. So I picked these up on eBay a while ago, maybe about 2 years ago, because I saw that it was color 8 shell, and I could tell that it was real. I actually get a lot of questions. People ask me if the thing that they're looking at is actual shell cordovan or if it's like fake. And if I can tell, I'll give you an answer. You feel free to ask me. I'm glad to help out people figure out what's real and what's not. So I knew that these were real, and I saw they were like $75 or something like that, and they were my size. So I picked them up, and I like them. I've worn these to a couple weddings back when we could have weddings, and I like the look a lot. They're actually pretty comfortable. But the other thing I like about these is the story. Maybe this is a long story, but shell cordovan, when they were first tanning it at Horween, they were using it for razor strops, and they would use it to hone the blades after sharpening them. So you would see them all over. People would have them in their homes because everybody was sort of either shaving at home or at a barber shop. And they would use the shell side to hone, and they would use the shell side to sharpen, and the other side, like the reverse side of the shell, to sort of hone it. So they would kind of spin it on one of these strops. And then the quick razor from Gillette came out, or like the safety razor. And people weren't honing as many blades. So the tannery wanted to stay alive, and they needed to find another use for the shell cordovan. So they, at that time, this company Florsheim was making stuff in Chicago. I'm actually, like, my home where I'm sitting right now is almost equidistant between Horween and the shoe factory for Florsheim. Back then they didn't even have cars, so they probably took like a horse and carriage across town, and it must have been Isidore Horween showed whoever at Florsheim, hey, check out this leather. You should use it for shoes. And one of the things that was special about it that they noticed once they started trying it out on the shoes is that it's porous. So most rubberized looking leathers back then were non-porous, and people's feet would get really sweaty. So you would have companies try to make this sort of shiny patent leather look out of non-porous materials, and people would be upset because their feet would get super sweaty. So the way that they demonstrated that the shell cordovan have breathability to it, sort of like your foot can air out even while you wear it, is everybody was smoking, so they would blow smoke through the piece of shell to demonstrate how porous it was. I actually haven't done that. I should do that on a video or something. But that's a fun demo. So they figured out it was really breathable, so your feet wouldn't get super sweaty. It has a great look. It's like bright and shiny, has a really great depth of color. And then the other thing that I don't think they anticipated, they maybe they did, but this break here where the leather creases, that's going to be super tight forever. And I don't know if they realized that, but they maybe stumbled across what I think is the best thing about the cordovan is how you get a new looking shoe forever. All you got to really do is change the sole out. So the break on the shell is really unique. This sort of lack of pebbling and lack of delamination that's happening here. I don't. It's not possible for anything else to be this tight because there's nothing to separate here. You're just talking about like one thick membrane, and that's what you're seeing flexing. So there's nothing to separate across from it unless you find a piece of shell that's not finished from Horween that's like painted on. You will see, and I've seen it myself. Other tanneries are painting finish onto the shell, and when it flexes, you can really see some of that separation of the finish layer from the shell underneath. It's not nice. I think it's a waste of shell. But there are other tanneries from Horween that do a nice job too. But that's what shell is really special for. This was my first pair of shell anything. They're not new. I bought them used. I think they're from like the 90s. I remember looking up the number in here. And it was a little inconclusive. I think they're from like 94. And I wore them only a couple times now. They could use some work. But I think it's cool. I've always really liked long wings. I've always really liked color 8 long wings. And this was the first shell shoe I owned. So that's special to me. Here's the last guy. And if anybody has any questions about these, definitely let me know before we wrap it up here. But this is one of my favorite things too. I do have a wish for this one, but let me introduce it first. I believe this is called the All-Weather Walker from Alden. And this one is in brown Chromexcel. It's got like black finish on it. So they edge painted all of the pattern pieces black here. All of the eyelets are that darker brown. They don't really look black for the eyelets. They're like a really dark brown for the eyelets. But all this paint, actually, that's a leather like welt kind of thing. That's interesting. There's like a leather piece going across the top. I never noticed that before. And then it's got this sort of like lug sole thing. I don't know. I think that's called a lug sole. But maybe I wore these out. Usually they're a lot chunkier than this. But that's like a pretty sleek one. So these are the all-weather walkers. I think the idea was that it's like a nice sort of like business casual shoe that you could also walk in the rain with. The Chromexcel is not waterproof, but it is water resistant. So I think that's what they were trying to go for with this, with that lug sole, so you wouldn't slip and fall. I really like the plain toe look. So like for me, a dream would be this in a boot, which I kind of have some similar stuff, but with a different sole. I think I would want, I don't really know what sole I like the best, but I don't like the look of that one. I think it's like a little too casual for me. But I think if I were to have this in like a leather sole as a boot, that would be like the dream. I love plain toes. I know they're kind of like redundant and like everybody's seen them, but I just like the simplicity of that. So maybe my next thing will be like a plain toe boot from Alden with like a leather sole or something. But this one's really neat. It reminds me that I should wear some of these more. But I think that's like a beautiful piece. Like really, really good break on this Chromexcel piece also. Like the way that that's going to wear in. It's already worn in. It's like very, very nice. I haven't polished these or anything. I picked these up and like gave them a quick brushing for everything you saw here. So yeah, that's all I got. I got all the stuff to show you. There's some more stuff I had at work that I didn't bring in, but this is like a good majority of the stuff that I've worn. And for sizing, I think that's the biggest thing again. So maybe we'll close with that, and then I'll go back to playing some Christmas carols. I think the biggest thing is the sizing. So any of these could be like your favorite looking shoe, but if they don't fit you, you're never going to wear it. So unless you plan to just stare at stuff like on a shelf like that, you're going to want to get the size right. And I actually really enjoyed talking to Wyatt, and from what he told me, he does this for most people. Wyatt and Josh from Grant Stone will help you size whatever you want from them. So he suggested people call in or email them and say, hey, you know, I got a 1,000-mile boot in size 10 and a half. What size do you suggest for me in the Roy boot from Grant Stone? And they'll guide you in the right direction. I would imagine all of these shoemakers that I showed today will do something like that for you. And I would definitely do that before just ordering. Because again, the sizing seems to be the only thing that like really matters for all this. Having said that, I do happen to notice that the shoes that I have that are most comfortable are all Chromexcel. So I don't really know if that's just by chance or if that Chromexcel there's something to it that is making it more comfortable. And my speculation is that the Chromexcel has a little bit more stretch and it tends to mold nicely around my feet. So actually that's probably why, like, this guy, which is my absolute favorite one for comfort, is an unlined Chromexcel piece that was a little tight on me. And you can even see again like how much I've blown out the sides here. It's like gotten wider than it should be. It's supposed to be like that, but my feet have just like flexed it out, and now they're my favorite thing ever. So I think unlined is more comfortable. I think Chromexcel unlined is the most comfortable, and that's why I love this shoe so much. I don't know. Even the shell, like I think I still even like the Chromexcel over that, which I know people will be pissed about. It's hard, but comfort's different than look. So there's I think Chromexcel is good for that reason. It's like comfortable, but also can be sort of dressy looking. Where some of the dress shoes I've had have been a little bit firmer leather that doesn't tend to be as comfortable. Yeah, I don't know. Chromexcel. So I am done with work now. This was the last thing on my work agenda. So, special projects. Well, look on the chair behind me here. I actually have Horsebutt right there, and Vintage Future and I were talking about that last week. I should give you a quick demo of that because I think it's really interesting. So, Horsebutt Chromexcel is a combination of the shell from Shell Cordovan with Chromexcel. And the bottom line here for Horsebutt, my observation is that it's very dense. It's like super firm. I would imagine I'd have never owned a shoe out of it, but it seems a little too firm for me. And I would imagine that people have a similar experience with the Horsebutt Chromexcel as I have had with the shell from Viberg. Is the more I've worn it, the more comfortable it's gotten. But let me show you that. All right, so this is a full Horsebutt Chromexcel piece. So you can see on my right and left, like where the butt cheeks would be, like maybe you can't. So I find this to be really interesting. So if you were to imagine two ovals on here, so one oval would be sort of this shape here, and it comes all the way down there, and the other oval is here. They're symmetrical in theory. Comes all the way around to this side. Underneath the skin, this is actually where the shells are, and we were talking again on this interview last week. You probably can't see it here, but if in person, you can kind of see, and maybe the light's helping right now. There's like a little difference. It's like a little smoother down here. It might look visually textured right now from the black dyes, but in person, it's a little bit smoother down here and a little bit more fibrous up here. I can feel it being very smooth here, and up here it feels a little bit more rough. So what this is, underneath there, those two ovals were hiding pieces of shell. And here's what the shells look like. Each equine animal, a horse or a donkey or a mule, has two of these in their hindquarters. And on horses in particular, it's not one continuous membrane, which is why you see typically a shell look this shape, sort of like an oval with a cut. And there would be another one that kind of starts right here, and there would be another oval here. On a donkey and a mule, the shell membrane actually continues all the way across. So Horween loves to get those because then they can make one piece shell belts. So this is what a shell looks like. And this is the Horsebutt Chromexcel. Bottom line is, like, I think this is a little bit of a waste of a piece of shell. Like, I would rather make this into like regular cordovan or just make Chromexcel from a steer hide. I don't really see the reason to do this other than it's like a really cool story. I would imagine it might wear in a little bit differently, but and the grain character is like a little bit more grainy, where the regular Chromexcel is like a little bit more polished and smooth. There tend to be like a little bit more character in the Horsebutts, especially down here. So I'm gonna see if I can bounce the light off of it so you can see it. There's like little bits of texture down here. You can get that in Horsebutt strips, Chromexcel, and not the horse butts themselves. Just buying the strips. Somebody said, "Do I like Blade?" I don't know what that is. The drain boot. What's a drain boot? Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm sure I'm missing something. Anyways, Horsebutt Chromexcel. I don't know. Drain Gang. Yeah. Anyways, Horsebutt Chromexcel. I don't know. I'd rather just have shell, or I'd rather have Chromexcel. For me. I'm getting trolled. Vintage Future says, can you talk about the leather that struck through a little bit? Any disadvantages? Does Horween do that? I know they do a lot of aniline. I have no experience with struck through. So struck through is a really good question. This particular leather here is something that's called struck through. And let me give you a good example of something that's not. So this Clark's boot in color 8 Chromexcel. So you have color 8 here. And then if you look at the cross section, it's sort of like a tan shade. That is not struck through. I've never been trolled before. I kind of like it. So on a struck through piece of leather, you'll see the same color typically on the outside as on the inside. So you can see here that's like tan on the inside of this guy and like a burgundy on the outside. And going back to this guy, it's black on the outside and black on the other side. That means that this piece of leather was put into a drum with different dyes and water, and it penetrated all the way through the grain, all the way to the back. That's one way to apply different colors. The other way to apply colors is to literally spray color on it. So you'd only see, like in this example, black on the side that you spray, and the other side would look whatever color was on it before, more of like a natural. And you can hand swab finish onto there too. Sort of no big deal. I mean, the big difference, like on these 1,000 mile boots here, The big difference on a struck through piece or not, and it's something that some people really like. I like it. Some people don't like it. Is when this toe gets scuffed up, you might even be able to see it there. This is not a drum dyed or struck through piece of leather. So you're seeing some of the natural color come through because the finish is coming off. You're starting to see what was under the finish before. On a mill dyed piece of leather or a struck through piece of leather, when this finish layer gets abraded, you'll still see some black from underneath. It tends to be a cleaner look. You might consider a little bit more luxury, but struck through doesn't necessarily mean like better or worse. It's just how the color was applied to it. Melinda, good to see you. Lears. I'm kind of tempted to not read these out loud. Yeah. Honestly, I'm so like not fashionable, Lears. But give me your suggestions. What should I wear? What's your favorite boot? I need boot to do you sell boots? Hi from India. Hi from Chicago. I don't sell boots. And I guess my favorite boot right now that I have is the Roy boot from Alden and this Indy boot, which is also from Alden. I have my favorite pair of anything here right now, which is this sort of like boat shoe from Oak Street. Anyways, I think I'm gonna bail on you guys. But everybody like Melinda, Vintage Future, Special Projects, Nataku, Andrew. Thank you guys for coming to hang out. Oh, Tremaine was here. I missed you, Tremaine. Sorry about that. Hey, John Sanchez, thanks for hanging out. Floyd, NetDev1 had a good question. Dave Levy, thank you guys for hanging out. And hope you have a really good Christmas and all that stuff. Oh, by the way, what's up, James Thompson? I don't know you, but I like you. Acid House, what's up, dude? You're welcome. Alex. Honestly, if anybody wants, I'm gonna turn off the camera and then go make like a weird backing track for some Christmas carols. So if anybody wants to play music with me, hit me an email, phil@ashlandleather.com, and I can send you a track. And then if you want, we can like publish you playing along to it. It would be kind of fun. Why aren't there any more options of boots in rare shell? Why aren't there many options in general for shell cordovan? Yeah, Robert, that's a good question to end it on too. Horween, like the total amount of shell that Horween makes in a year would be, oh gosh, I don't know the number anymore, but you'd have to say it'd be like 40,000 shells in total. And each shell is making like one boot. So we're talking like 20,000 pairs maybe of boots if they were all to be used that year. So most pieces of shell are actually made for certain customers that have been buying it for like centuries or for 100 years probably. Alden and Allen Edmonds, and their customers tend to want black and color 8. So most of the shells tend to go into those colors. There's some other variables too, like to get a really clean natural piece of shell, it's tough because sometimes there's natural variations in the leather itself that won't work for a light color. So it's number one, harder to make the light colors, and number two, they're just not as popular. So you don't tend to see them as much. I would imagine if everybody wanted like black marbled shell boots and everybody was asking Allen Edmonds and Viberg for them, they would order that. But I think those are some like tougher looks. I think it's a little easier to wear like a black boot or a brown boot and like not purple. So it's probably why you don't see as many funky stuff. All right. JR says, hey, Phil, thought about doing video on which wallet each staff member is carrying. Be cool to see. I should do that. My brother's wearing a Herbie. I'm wearing a Capone right now. Actually I would like to try up another wallet. If anybody wants to see something in particular, I think a lot of people are wearing Herbies. Dan's been wearing Capone and like a custom card holder that he's been working on. Laura wears a Herbie. I'm not sure what Lupe's using. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good one though. I should do that. Good question. But happy holidays, guys. Appreciate you. Yeah, Ryan, I switch them up like kind of whenever. I've only been wearing the Capone, and I'm still wearing it because I like it. But I try to wear out or wear in things that were like prototyping. So it's kind of fun to try new things. I want to wear everything before we sell it because I don't really feel comfortable selling something unless I know I like it. So I'm actually still wearing a 2-shot and a Capone right now. And then I'll be wearing some new development stuff too. Oh, Jax, Phil at Ashland Leather, just say, hey, I want on the backing track, and I'll send you. I'm working on Sleigh Ride, which I think is kind of fun. I kind of like the Christmas songs without Jesus in them, so it's not very Christmassy. What was the outcome of you pushing Skip for rare thin shells? He gave us one batch of thin shells, but I haven't had anything else. I don't know. So the process for them, it's like a real hassle for them to sort through every shell to check in multiple sections for thickness. So it's like a real burden for me to ask them to do that. And I'm going to try to be patient because, we've been asking for thin shells for years, and we just kind of haven't had them. So I keep asking, and every now and then we'll get a couple, but it's not a consistent thing. All right. I'm confused by the chat, but thanks for hanging out, dudes. And everybody else, hope you have a good one. Hope you have a good Christmas. I'll see you. I might be back next week, but have a good evening. Hopefully Santa brings you everything you want. If you want music to play to, send me an email to phil@ashlandleather.com. All right. See you later, guys. Bye.